All right, today we're going to dive into a pretty sophisticated tax strategy for real estate partners. It's called the drop and swap. Now, it's a powerful tool, but it's also a bit risky, and it's really designed for one very specific and very common situation, when partners just can't agree on what to do with their property.
So picture this. Your partnership is finally ready to sell a really valuable property. This should be a celebration, right? But it's not. You've hit a wall. Everyone has a totally different idea for what to do with the money, and you are completely deadlocked.
And this is the heart of the puzzle. You've got some partners who are saying, hey, let's just take the cash, pay the capital gains, and we're out. But you and maybe a few others are thinking bigger. You want to defer all those taxes by rolling the gains into a brand new property using a 1031 exchange. So how on earth do you solve for two completely opposite goals?
Okay, quick refresher for everyone. A Section 1031 exchange is, a cornerstone of real estate investing. It lets you sell an investment property, take all those proceeds, and reinvest them into a new one, all while deferring capital gains taxes. It's an amazing tool for keeping your money working for you, but yeah, it's got some really strict rules.
So why are you stuck? Well, it all boils down to two fundamental IRS rules that seem to make it totally impossible for partners to go their separate ways. They basically put up a giant roadblock right in front of what you're trying to do.
So check this out, because this is where the conflict really heats up. You want to take your piece of the pie and do your own 1031 exchange. But the IRS says two things. First, your interest in the partnership, your share of the LLC, nope, that doesn't count as like-kind property. You can't exchange it. And second, and this is a big one, the same taxpayer who sells the old property has to be the one who buys the new.
And this is the real killer, the same taxpayer rule. If your LLC sells the property, then that exact same LLC has to buy the new one. You, as an individual partner, can't just peel off your share of the cash and go do your own exchange. The partnership is the taxpayer, not you. So you're all chained together, or are you?
And this brings us to the solution. A really clever, kind of elegant strategy known as the drop and swap. It's designed specifically to break this exact kind of partnership deadlock.
It's basically a two-step dance. First, you have the drop. The partnership gives the property back to the partners. So you go from owning a piece of a company to owning a direct, fractional piece of the actual real estate. You're now a tenant in common, or a TIC. Then comes the swap. Now that you're all individual owners, everyone's free. The partners who want cash can sell their piece, and you can take your piece and swap it in your own 1031 exchange.
And here's the magic trick, right? The whole point of this maneuver is to change who the taxpayer is. It's no longer the partnership. Now each one of you is an individual property owner. So when you sell your tenant in common interest, you are the taxpayer, which means you can complete your own 1031 exchange. You've satisfied the same taxpayer rule. It's a brilliant workaround.
Now, it's worth mentioning there's another way to do this called the swap and drop. It's kind of doing things in reverse. The partnership does the exchange first, buys the new property, and then drops the ownership down to the partners. It's seen as a bit more conservative, sure, but it's way less common because it forces everyone to stick together through that first exchange, which, kind of defeats the purpose if you're trying to split up. Okay, before you run off and try this, we need to talk about the risks. And trust me, they are significant. This is not some simple loophole. The drop and swap is what's considered an aggressive strategy, and you can bet the IRS looks at these deals very, very closely. Let's break down what you need to worry about.
In this quote right here, it nails the biggest problem. The IRS can argue that you, as this new individual owner, haven't actually held the property long enough for it to count as an investment. The fact that the partnership held it for, say, 10 years, that doesn't just transfer over to you.
See, the IRS has this weapon in its arsenal called the Step Transaction Doctrine. And with it, they can argue that the drop and the swap weren't really two separate things. They can say it was all just a series of pre-planned steps to sell the property while dodging taxes. And if they make that argument stick, they can collapse the whole thing and kill your exchange.
So the IRS is going to look you in the eye and ask this one simple question. What was your intent? Did you take ownership of this property as a tenant in common to truly hold it as an investment? Or did you just take title so you could immediately flip it? If it looks like the second one, they'll argue you never held it for investment, and that's a core requirement for any 1031 exchange.
So what's the magic number? How long is long enough to prove you meant to invest? Well, the IRS has never put out a hard and fast rule. But if you ask pretty much any tax advisor out there, they're all going to say the same thing. Based on years of case law, 2 years. Holding that property as tenants in common for at least 2 years before you sell makes your case so much stronger.
Okay, so with all those scary warnings, how do you actually do this safely? You have to plan this out meticulously. So let's get into the game plan for doing this the right way. So here's a huge trap you could fall into. The IRS could look at your new group of tenant common owners and say, you know what, this looks and smells like a partnership. And if they reclassify you as a de facto partnership, boom, you're right back where you started and the exchange is dead. The key to avoiding this is following a set of guidelines called IRS Revenue Procedure 2002-22. Think of this Rev Proc as the official IRS playbook for not looking like a partnership. It gives you a safe harbor, a roadmap. It lays out a bunch of conditions, like keeping the group under 35 owners, making sure everyone has a formal written TIC agreement, and sharing all the money and the bills proportionally. Following these rules is absolutely critical.
All right, let's wrap this up with a quick checklist for success. First, the holding period. You really want to hold that TIC interest for 2 years plus before the exchange. The timing of the drop is huge. You need to do it well before you even have a whiff of a sales agreement. Professional advice, non-negotiable. You need a qualified intermediary, a great tax advisor, and a lawyer. And finally, don't forget state laws. A state like California, for example, has a nasty clawback tax where they can still tax you on your deferred gain if you later sell the new out-of-state property.
Look, if you take away only one thing from all this, let it be this quote right here. As CPA Rachel Lee says, this stuff is complex. This is not a weekend DIY project. The amount of tax you can save is massive, but the cost of getting it wrong? It's even bigger. Getting professional help isn't just a good idea. It's absolutely essential.
So, the drop and swap. It's an incredibly powerful strategy, no doubt. It can unlock flexibility for real estate partners who are stuck, but it comes with real significant risks. The ultimate question you and your advisors have to answer is this: is the reward of deferring all that tax truly worth the potential fight with the IRS? The right answer really depends on your planning, your patience, and the team you have in your corner.